So my first order of business this week is to address some of these Daniel Bryan comments from last week. Not just the comments I made, but some of the comments a lot of people made in the comments section, because after what I said about Daniel Bryan last week, nearly 500 comments on my Smackdown view. Most of them not even about the Smackdown show themselves. Most of them all about Daniel Bryan. And first things first, I did what I did to prove that as soon as you talk bad about an internet favorite such as Daniel Bryan, it sparks a reaction and people immediately get on your back and immediately people start reacting. Over 500 comments on this video, I believe over 100 rates, most of which were dislikes. It just goes to show you I can invoke a reaction, and that's a good thing because that's exactly what I want to try and do with these Smackdown reviews. It also amazes me how far people are going to defend this Daniel Bryan crap. I mean, you saw the numbers. It just seemed to me like people were using any old excuse to defend this. Oh, his character isn't developed enough to get in a main event spot. Oh, the Stanley Cup drew large numbers. The bottom line is it doesn't matter. If Daniel Bryan was such a draw, people wouldn't be watching the Stanley Cup. They would be tuning into Raw to watch their favorite superstar in the main event of a show. And for the record, guys, I think Daniel Bryan can be a draw for the company. His merch sales are very good. Just because his reactions are great and his merch sales are good doesn't mean he's going to be a draw for the company. You know, he's going to be a draw. Some kind of draw. Maybe in the mid-card. Not really as a main eventer, in my opinion. Just not a massive money maker for the WWE like so many people seem to think he's going to be. But anyway, that's just my opinion. Put that to rest now. Let's get on to the Smackdown review for this week. So we open up this edition of Smackdown with none other than the superhero Wolverine. Sorry. I mean CM Punk. And Wolverine, CM Punk, got a very good reaction coming out. And CM Punk pretty much compares himself to Independence Day. People making their own rules and blah-de-blah. And this felt to me like a sort of typical opening Smackdown promo segment. He talks about two simple goals being Lesnar and getting back his WWE Championship. You get Del Rio coming out saying how this is his show and he mocks Independence Day. I also find it quite funny how CM Punk brought out Del Rio on his swift character change. 1 minute he loves America, next minute he hates America. And we get Teddy Long making the obvious main event match. It just felt to me like a typical Smackdown opening segment just with CM Punk in there making some kind of special appearance. So Del Rio versus CM Punk was going to be our main event of the evening, the same main event I believe we had on Raw after Payback. But there we go. I just want to comment on here as well. There was a backstage segment with Paul Heyman and CM Punk. I like how they're slowly separating out Punk and Heyman. You know, Punk saying that he doesn't want Paul Heyman out there. He wants to do his own thing and he's going against what Paul Heyman's logical mind says. So I like how they're doing this Punk and Heyman thing right now. Rather than just rushing it, it seems like WWE are actually going to go nice and slowly and allow some build to this, maybe going into some kind of big pay-per-view or something. So our first match of the evening was Team Rhodes Scholars versus the Usos, which the Usos won very quickly to my surprise. And I was just thinking, like, you know, Sandow and Rhodes lost very quickly to the number one contenders for the Tag Team Championships. And while that makes the Usos look very strong, which is all good because the Usos are long overdue a push, I'm supposed to buy that Sandow and Cody Rhodes are going to be potential number one contenders, especially after being jobbers for the last few months, and they're losing this quickly to the Usos, a relatively new tag team to the tag team picture. Now, I'm just saying, it doesn't really work both ways sometimes. And then we had a backstage segment with The Shield to hype up the pay-per-view match, to hype up the Tag Team Championship match, which is going to be on the pre-show, by the way. Whose fucking idea was it to put the Shield, a faction that have been winning a lot of matches in WWE and been on pay-per-view spots most of the time, to put the Shield on the pre-show? I'm just saying, there is a little bit of a difference between trying to draw to your pre-show and just being damn right stupid. But again, the backstage segment with the Shield to hype up the tag team title match, Dean Ambrose in the Money in the Bank, and a potential US Championship match between Dean Ambrose and Christian, it achieved a lot for something very simple, I'll just say that. Caitlyn versus Alicia Fox. From what I knew, we had this match on Raw. They showed the video package, so we're having two matches of the same thing in the same week. That's creative, WWE. AJ's distraction gives Alicia Fox the win, so Alicia Fox actually has a win now over Caitlyn, which is kind of funny. And then you get Caitlyn chasing AJ out the arena, etc. This played out a little bit in a couple of backstage segments later, and while I really don't care about these Divas matches, I do somewhat care about this AJ and Caitlyn feud. At least they're trying to add some layers to it, and they're actually trying to do something with the Divas Championship now, which could be at least semi-interesting going into Money in the Bank. Speaking of Money in the Bank, for the first time in what seems like ages, we actually seem to have a full pay-per-view card going into the go-home shows. Generally, WWE shows will just have maybe 3 or 4 matches announced, and the rest of the matches we just kind of have to guess going into the go-home shows. But at least now, WWE can focus all their efforts on Raw and SmackDown in hyping up and trying to get people interested and trying to get people to pay for the pay-per-view rather than trying to scramble around to add last-minute matches, etc. So Money in the Bank, at least in some part, has been built up to pretty well in the sense that we've actually had matches pre-announced ahead of time, so we know exactly what we're going to be paying for. Only we in the UK don't have to pay for it because it's free on Sky Sports. So it looks like next week we're finally going to be getting the debut of the Wyatt family. Yes, this is going to be awesome. I have been waiting for this for quite some time. And what surprised me most about this week's Raw is the fact that the Wyatt family vignette actually ended the show. When it wasn't Cena and Del Rio and that ending the show, it was actually the Wyatt family vignette. This to me shows that someone backstage, whether it be Triple H, Vince McMahon, Stephanie McMahon, someone in a higher power back there is really behind the Wyatt family. And I really do hope that next week that they make some kind of big impact and allow people to actually care about what they're doing. I just have one question though. Why are they returning? Why are they debuting, excuse me, on the go-home show to Money in the Bank when you want all the focus to be on Money in the Bank? And why not introduce them after the pay-per-view, kind of like they do with WrestleMania and new talent generally? Just something that confused me a little bit. But either way, I'm still looking forward to it. And you know, they may be part of Money in the Bank for all we know. Was I the only one that, when they saw Randy Orton versus Christian in a match up next, kind of just went, oh God, not this again? I just was like, geez, I don't really care about this match. I never really have cared about this match ever since they feuded in 2011 when Christian, excuse me, was Randy Orton's jobber bitch. And to be honest, it was the same again this time. Was it really any surprise that Randy Orton beat Christian? Really not. So what's the point in watching the match? I must admit, I didn't watch the match because I really don't care to see Randy Orton and Christian go at it, especially when they're both baby faces. It really didn't seem like the Smackdown crowd this week really cared about Dolph Ziggler's promo all that much, which is not a very good start to your reign as a babyface when a Smackdown crowd really doesn't care about your promo and starts chanting what. I'm just saying, as for Ziggler as a babyface, I'm willing to give it a chance. Right now, I'm still kind of adjusting to it. It still kind of feels a little bit weird to see his change in mannerisms. Once again, I hope WWE don't just do this like full. I hope they slowly turn him from being a heel to a babyface, maybe have him separate from AJ and Big E Langston, etc. As for Dolph Ziggler versus Drew McIntyre, really didn't care about this match, even though it had Dolph Ziggler in it. I mean, Dolph Ziggler wins very quickly. I'm not really sure what the point in having Dolph Ziggler feud with 3MB is. It's like a little mini feud while he's feuding with Del Rio for the World Heavyweight Championship. You know, we have no interaction between them two on this show, which is one of the bigger matches of the pay-per-view. I don't know. Ziggler wins here and embarrasses 3MB, which we've come to expect. They are a jobber faction now, and I just found myself not really caring about this segment, and in accordance, Dolph Ziggler as well. And I really think with Dolph Ziggler, WWE have some kind of opportunity to try and emulate what TNA are doing with Austin Aries. You have Austin Aries going around saying, you know, that he is arrogant, he is cocky, but the fans still cheer for him. And you're kind of trying to do the same thing with Dolph Ziggler. I do wonder how successful that will be. I don't think Dolph Ziggler is anywhere near the talent of an Austin Aries, but if there's one character in the WWE, apart from maybe CM Punk, you could do this with, it's definitely Dolph Ziggler with his show-off gimmick. And I do feel that this could be a good way to go for Dolph Ziggler while they're trying to transition him into a full-on babyface. Because if there's one thing I don't want to see WWE do with Dolph Ziggler, it's make him into a full-on babyface like a John Cena or a Sheamus. So we had Fandango's return to SmackDown in a jobber squash match against Justin Gabriel. I'll say this though, I don't think there's much chance in him winning Money in the Bank, even though Vince and me personally are very behind the character. I think that, you know, I don't think he's ready yet to really be in a kind of World Heavyweight Championship picture. Yes, he'll be a new character to the frame, but I really don't think the Fandango character yet is ready to win Money in the Bank, even though at one point it was a hot character. And ever since that injury, it's just been like, you know, Fandango not really as hot as he once was, let's say around about WrestleMania to Extreme Rules time. So Fandango, maybe, you know, Vince McMahon may want him to win Money in the Bank because we all know he's behind it, but I don't think he's going to win it. I still think Dean Ambrose is the most built-up person to win Money in the Bank, which is why they'll give it to Wade Barrett. Before I talk about CM Punk versus Alberto Del Rio in SmackDown's main event, I just want to ask you guys a question. How important do you feel that Ricardo Rodriguez is to Alberto Del Rio's character? Because judging by what happened on this episode of SmackDown, I feel that Ricardo Rodriguez is very important to the success of Del Rio's character. Because when he came out without Ricardo, when he didn't have a ring announcer, he just seemed like a very bland, generic character. And without that Ricardo Rodriguez, without that thing that helps make him stand out from the rest of the crowd, he just felt like another wrestler. He just didn't feel like he stood out at all, which is why I feel Ricardo Rodriguez is incredibly important to any kind of success WWE want to get out of this Alberto Del Rio character, especially now he's World Heavyweight Champion. Unfortunately, though, Ricardo Rodriguez decided to do some drugs, I believe, and he got suspended by violating a WWE wellness policy. So that's unfortunate, but shit like that happens. As for Del Rio versus CM Punk, I wasn't really too interested in this match. I really wasn't. I saw it on Raw a couple of weeks back, I believe. The interesting bit came at the end, really. You had Del Rio hitting Paul Heyman after Paul Heyman tried to get involved, and Punk unloads on Del Rio, allowing them to both get counted out. And I'm glad that no one did a clean job here, because to have Del Rio, your World Heavyweight Champion, your new World Heavyweight Champion, do a job on a second show in a row to another guy who's primarily on Raw, that would have been a little bit idiotic in my opinion. And you had Punk GTSing Del Rio to end the show. And while I don't like the World Heavyweight Champion necessarily looking like a bit of a bitch, you know, at the end of what is essentially his show, I feel with CM Punk being there and being some sort of like special attraction for SmackDown, having him end the show was, you know, wasn't a bad idea really, and sending the fans home pretty happy and establishing CM Punk as a crowd favorite on SmackDown as well. As for the angle they were doing with CM Punk and Paul Heyman, like I said, again, this was done very well. You have CM Punk coming to the aid of Paul Heyman, even though there's been a little bit of rifting there. So again, they're taking this angle nice and slowly going into SummerSlam, which is probably going to sort of end with this Brock Lesnar and CM Punk match at SummerSlam at some point. So there we go. And one more thing about CM Punk. I bet I'm not the only one that thinks this, but I fucking hope now they brought him back as this, you know, babyface, maybe tweener kind of guy that the crowd like, etc. I hope they don't just go down the typical babyface route like they did last time when they made him a babyface. I hope they at least try and do something different with him this time. Really try and blur the lines between him being a babyface and him, you know, really blur the lines with his character, for example. You know, the crowd may cheer him 1 minute, but CM Punk may be all about himself and be cocky and arrogant, just like Austin Aries is, and still be over in TNA. So I hope they at least go down a different route with CM Punk as a babyface this time. I really do. So yeah, this to me was just kind of a mess SmackDown. That's just kind of how I felt about it. There was a lot of segments on there that I really didn't care for. CM Punk being there as a sort of slight special attraction was quite nice, but you know, it's got like typical SmackDown opening segment, typical SmackDown main event. They really didn't do anything too special with the fact that he was going to be there on SmackDown, etc. And a lot of the show, like I said, I really didn't care all that much about. So leave me your thoughts on this edition of SmackDown and what I've talked about in this review, of course, down in the comment section below. And thank you very much for watching another SmackDown review with me, Mr. Parkin of the British Fist. Thank you very much for watching, guys. Goodbye.